We're going to talk about the ways you can classify solutions as an acid, base, or neutral substance. And then we're going to look at those vocabulary words you had in the little word scramble. So we started talking about acids and bases yesterday. Started looking at the different characteristics of acids and bases and talked about how they are opposites. Some of those characteristics, like they have a different taste, they have a different pH. There's only one neutral substance, and that is pure water. So look at your list that you classified, and you should have labeled pure water as a neutral substance. Joshua, what did you label milk, which is a 6.5 on the pH scale? Acidic. So you should have the letter A for milk, milk, which is 6.5. Would you classify that as a strong acid or maybe a weak acid? Which one would you think, Joshua? Well, look at your scale. What does your scale go from if you're acidic? What's the lowest part of your scale, the lowest number? It's actually a 0. Now, does the 0 represent the strongest acid or the weakest acid? Strongest. Correct, because if you notice, it is the 0 is the farthest away from the 7. That's kind of your go-to point. The 0 is the farthest away from the 7. So a 6.5, I want you to put the word weak. Now you're going to do the further research. So to help you do the research, if you turn your paper over, you're going to see a sample, a portion of an article. This is something you would find maybe in a medical journal, magazine, a health article in the newspaper. And the article is called The Symptoms of Acidosis. And you know what? The first thing I thought about when I heard it sounded like SpongeBob and his snail. Remember when he had slimatosis? Okay, that was made up. This is for real. Acidosis is a disease. Everyone needs to have a different question, and then we'll share the questions and see if we can answer them based on this research or other information. The questions, you're going to come up with a question. So as you're reading, if your brain thinks, oh, I wonder why this happens, or how does this happen, or why does it happen, then you're going to just jot that question down. If you have a question right off the bat, go ahead and write the question down. Then you can always go back and write down your 3 facts. Okay? Everybody needs to have someone, that way you can bounce your ideas off of your elbow partner. That's the person that's sitting beside you. Not across from you, but beside you, okay? So you will come sit over here so y'all can talk? Okay. So start out by reading the article. Also pay attention to the diagram that you see there. And then you're going to write down 3 facts, 3 things you discovered from the article. I'm going to give you about 6 or 7 minutes, okay? Starting now. You're going to write down your 3, 2, 1 on the bottom. You're going to write 3 facts or 3 things you discovered. 2 interesting things. Like you said, I wonder. It makes you wonder, makes you think about. And then write 1 question. Y'all can have some of the similar facts because there's only so many facts that they give you in the article. And you can use the diagram to help you also. Write them on the other side. You can just write 3, 2, 1, and you can start writing your 3 discoveries. Not on that side, on the other side. Right there. Right there where you started. Huh? Good. You've heard of this before? Not many people have ever heard of this before. You sound this. Yep. Start writing 3, 2, 1. So what was 3? Yeah. So what were 3 facts you discovered?
That you could die.
All right. So you can write that as one of your discoveries.
If your pH level drops below 6.9.
Yeah, and you can write that down. That could be your first discovery. I like that one. That's very factual, right? Tells you exactly what the pH normally is supposed to be in that range. That's good. Some of you may have the same facts as your partner. That's perfectly fine. You may have different interesting ideas or questions about what you're reading. Well, those are some good questions because if you think about people that have diabetes, whether it's juvenile diabetes, whether you're born with it, or it's type 2, which happens usually later in life because of diet and different things like that. You think about what are some things you could do to prevent this from happening. And if you know somebody who has diabetes, you could tell them, make sure you're taking your medicine properly. Make sure you're checking your blood sugar. If they're getting ready to eat a big old piece of pie, you might ask them, do you think you should eat all of that with all that sugar? Are you going to exercise after you eat all that sugar? Okay, because sometimes the exercise helps balance out the sugar in the blood. Okay, question.
My granddad, he goes to the hospital a lot because of his diabetes, and he always has fluid. And like every time we go, it's basically
Whatever the problem is that's causing him to retain fluid is still there. They maybe haven't found exactly what's causing it to retain. And sometimes different foods you eat, salty foods, will make you retain more fluids. So it could be, they could tell you to maybe decrease the amount of sodium, decrease the amount of salt and things that you do, like when you cook your food, or especially don't add it to your food. All right, Dalton, do you have a question? All right, read your question.
how much blood does a normal person have in their body?
Oh, that's a good one, about 6 liters, and we'll get to that a little bit later. It's about 6 liters of blood, and that's what is constantly kind of moving through your circulatory system at any time. But when we're talking about and discovering the different parts, the systems of the body, that's going to come back up again about the fact that all the blood we have in our body stays confined in our blood vessels. I don't know. I'd have to do my math conversion to figure that one out. Actually, take the question you just asked and go back and look on here. Did you read that it says if the pH level drops? It's in the first paragraph. Joshua, read your question real quick because we're getting close to our time.
What happens if your pH goes up?
Raise your hand if you ever heard of hyperventilating.
Me.
Okay, so the technical term for when you hyperventilate is not acidosis, because the opposite thing happens. On the scale, the pH goes above where it's supposed to be, so it'll go above a 7.45. And you would think it's called basidosis. I even thought the same thing too. But if you notice on the other side of your paper, what's the other word they have next to the word base? It's called alkaline, so they call it alkanosis. So it's like taking the alkaline and adding the osis on the end, okay? Yes. Now, before you all go, you have a little box that says research. Everybody should be able to answer now that research question. So I want you to answer your research question, and you're going to turn that paper in to me before you leave. I want you to write me one complete sentence that answers your research question. I want one complete sentence that answers that research question. You just completed your research. Yes. Of course, you could give me more than one sentence. Done? Yeah? Come get your